Britain woke up this weekend to yet another story that feels almost unreal. A train journey from Doncaster to London turned into chaos when men with large knives began attacking passengers on board. It happened just after 7:30 on Saturday evening as the train was approaching Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire. Armed police swarmed Huntingdon station within minutes. 10 people were taken to hospital and 9 of them were initially said to have life-threatening injuries. Miraculously though, no one has died, thank goodness, but for several victims, doctors say it is still critical. Here's what Ollie Forster, a witness to the attack, had to say about what he saw.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone. And then I had guys suddenly run past going, run, run. There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. There was a few of us kind of looking at each other like thinking it was a joke, like it's Halloween, I'll be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. I kind of got my stuff and I was running and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point, I was kind of asking questions like, what's happening? Like, who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there. Put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty serious. So some of the guys that had ran through to kind of alert us to run, they were the ones who had also been stabbed. So we're running over and getting to the edge of the carriage, still trying to work out who is it, what's their intentions, what's their motives. I just knew they were stabbing everyone, and someone kind of said they thought they had a gun. Pulled the emergency alarm and just trying to work out, can we barricade the doors, can we lock the doors? But we couldn't really. And then by the time I got to the end of the carriage, I realised I was actually at the back of it, and there was about 6 of us. There was a girl, bless her, who was really, really in a bit of state because the guy had actually tried to stab her, and one of the older guys, who's an absolute hero, blocked it with his head, and he's got this like gash. He had this gash on his head. He's got I think a gash on his neck, and he's we're kind of giving him like our jackets to keep the pressure on the blood. And while we're doing that, there's a person that I know, and he's kind of looked at me and gone like, "Have you got anything we can use in case he comes through?"
There's at least 10 ambulances, 12 ambulances.
We had a Jack Daniels bottle between us, and that was it. So we're kind of sitting there with one Jack Daniels bottle, just looking down the end of this carriage, just praying somebody doesn't walk down with a knife, with a gun. We didn't really know what was going on.
People on board described panic, screaming, blood everywhere. Some hid in the toilets, others were trampled as they tried to escape. One witness told reporters that he saw someone hanging out the train door, bleeding, waiting for help.
What happened was I was in Coach G and there was quite a few people coming through Coach G, and one of the people that were coming through, I had my headphones on, then heard them say, they've got a knife, I've been stabbed. And then when looking up, so they were making their way through the carriage to get away from the incident, from the suspects. They were extremely bloodied. That person ended up, when we pulled in, they were basically on the floor. We couldn't progress further down the train away from the suspect because that person ended up collapsing on the floor. The armed police were pointing to the suspect. As we come off the train, I asked what that suspect looked like. They said it's a black male in all black, so a black hoodie. Essentially, as they got closer to him and started shouting, like, get down, get down, he then was waving a knife, quite a large knife. And then they detained him. I think it was a taser that got him down in the end.
Police used a taser on one of the suspects, and within 8 minutes of the first 999 call, 2 men were in custody. The men that did this are said to be a 32-year-old and a 35-year-old man, both of Caribbean descent. At first, counter-terrorism officers were called in. The incident was even declared Plato, the national code for marauding terror attack, but that was later stood down. Police now say there's no evidence that this was terror-related. Under the Terrorism Act 2000, terrorism means using or threatening serious violence, causing serious damage to property, endangering life, creating serious risks to the public, or seriously disrupting electronic systems. Tommy Robinson was charged with terrorism for refusing to give up his phone password in order to protect grooming gang victims, but 2 men that stabbed a load of people on a train, that's not terrorism apparently. Think of that what you will. Everyday people did extraordinary things. Passengers stepped in, pulled others to safety and tried to stop the bleeding before medics arrived. More than can be said when poor Irina Zarutska was murdered on a train in the US in August. In a week where so many headlines make you question what has happened to this country, moments like this remind you that there's still courage and decency everywhere, and we need to remember that. The really awful and truly heartbreaking thing here is that in the UK, these stories aren't even shocking anymore. They're becoming expected. And now the political fallout has begun. MP Rupert Lowe has written to the Prime Minister demanding answers, asking how incidents like this keep happening and calling for a review of public safety policy and sentencing. You can pause the screen now to read this if you want to. So far, 2 men remain in custody on suspicion of attempted murder. 4 victims have been discharged from hospital. 2 are still fighting for their lives, and the investigation is continuing. How has Britain reached the point where a simple train journey can end like this? If there are any major updates, we will keep you updated with short videos across our socials, but sadly this is just one of several stories this week that show the state of Britain right now, from failures, injustice to decisions that make you wonder who the system is really working for. In London, a shocking update in the case of the Romanian man who stabbed an 11-year-old Australian girl 8 times outside a Lego store in Leicester Square. This week, prosecutors dropped the attempted murder charge, saying psychiatrists couldn't prove he intended to kill. He's now being held in a secure hospital, but that's little comfort for a family who came here on holiday and left traumatised. It's another example of a justice system that seems more focused on explaining away violence than protecting the victims. Then there's a case of Hadush Kabatu, the Ethiopian migrant who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Epping. He was accidentally released from prison, sparked a 2-day manhunt, and when he was finally caught again, the government paid him £500 to cooperate and sent him on his way. His victim's family called it the biggest level of disrespect, saying that they're paying for therapy whilst the offender gets rewarded. And don't forget Wayne Broadhurst either, literally murdered when walking his dog. There's honestly just so many victims, it's hard to count. In other news, the government have finally announced a landmark deal to fast-track the return of illegal immigrants back where they came from. Hallelujah! The migrants in question, though, are the Vietnamese. I don't really know what else to say here other than I can't remember the last time I heard a Vietnamese person carrying out terrorism-like activities in the UK. Whilst anyone who is illegally in this country should be deported, as they are here illegally, perhaps we should be prioritising the ones who are causing nationwide terror each and every day. Just a thought. And finally, while all of this is happening, many of you have noticed something else. When the story is uncomfortable, the BBC and other mainstream media outlets quietly rewrite the headlines. They soften the wording, they blur the details, and somehow the story then just loses its edge. People deserve to know what's going on, not the sanitized version. There's violence on our trains, on our streets, and there's just chaos everywhere. And the media is still trying to tell us it's all fine. If you want the facts without the woke agenda and without the gaslighting, sign up to our free reality check newsletter for the stories that matter straight to your inbox every Saturday morning. Details on how to join are in the description below. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.